Hi, welcome to my latest video. It is the beginning of March and I'm out here in this lovely spring sunshine, and today I'm going to be starting a major project on my Freelander 2. This is the first video in a series of videos looking at the rear differential. Let's have a look underneath the car here and we can see the rear diff here. I'm going to be changing that, and this is going to be the job from hell. Okay, this is going to be a big, difficult project. So why am I going to be changing my rear differential? It's because it's getting really whiny. Okay, the rear diff bearings that Land Rover fitted on the Freelander 2 were not good enough, they were not strong enough, and most Freelander 2s suffer from rumbling or whining rear differentials. It is a common problem. It is the Achilles heel in the Freelander 2. What is almost a perfect vehicle can suffer from a rumbling sound coming from here. It sounds a bit like a sort of wheel bearing noise, but it will show up really under load. When you accelerate, you'll hear a noise from the back of the car. The bearings that Land Rover fitted, in particular the nose bearing, which is the one where the power comes into the rear differential from the prop shaft and the Haldex, that can wear, and when it wears it then has sloppiness and movement in it, and that ends up making an awful noise. Okay, my car has been rumbling and whining away for many years, and you can see there's oil starting to leak out here. I mean, I've done nearly 200,000 miles now. The bearings where the CV joints go in are probably very worn as well. Certainly the seals have had it, and the Haldex is also long overdue a service. I've never really given it a thorough service. I've topped up the fluid and I've made sure it's all kind of working and WD-40 the electrical connections, but I've never removed the pump. I've not removed the filter. Okay, and they get really clogged up and need cleaning out regularly. So I haven't done that. I don't know why, I just never really got round to it. It's difficult doing a Haldex service with the Haldex in situ, especially on what's called the Gen 4, okay? So I'll show more in a moment on the bench with the differences between the Generation 3 and the Generation 4. If your Freelander 2 is 2006 to 2008, it's probably a Gen 3, and then from sort of 2009 onwards, late 2008 onwards, it's the Generation 4. Okay, so the Generation 4 is a better Haldex, but it is more difficult to service on the car because the filter is right up the top, out of sight, and it's just really difficult to actually sort of work on compared to the Gen 3, which is actually fairly easy to do on the car. So if I'm going to be changing the rear diff, all of that has got to come off the car. So I will take it all off onto the bench. The rear diff will be swapped for an uprated one from Bell Engineering with stronger bearings, and at the same time I will rebuild or recondition the Haldex unit, change the pump, change the filter, generally clean it all out and make sure that it's all functioning correctly before then putting it all back on. What I'm going to try and do in order to minimise time off the road is actually build up the replacement unit off the car. So I've actually bought 2 second-hand Gen 4 Haldexes plus a rear diff with a Gen 3, and I will be taking all of that apart, swapping the rear diff for a uprated one, building up a complete new unit, and then swapping it out. Now, to swap out this rear diff, the drive shafts have to come out, which means the wheels and the hubs have to be disconnected and pulled out, and then the prop shaft has to be separated, so my fuel tank guard here will have to come off, the prop shaft joint has to be split, the drive shaft CVs, either the drive shafts are pulled out or the whole CVs, I'm not sure which yet, and the whole thing is then lowered down. There are some very large bolts, well there's sort of 4 bolts there, but this cradle has 2 very large bolts there, and then there are 2 bolts into the sort of the back of the diff housing, so 4 large bolts, and then the whole thing is sort of somehow lowered down on a trolley jack, probably because it's very heavy. Okay, so it's going to be a difficult job to do on my own. I will give it a go and I'll see how I get on, really. It's not something that I want to take the car to a garage to be done. I'd end up paying a lot of money in labour. It's costing me probably over £1,000 in parts, just buying the uprated diff, which is £415 I think plus VAT, plus I bought 2 spare Gen 4 Haldexes and a complete Gen 3 unit. I've spent probably over £1,000 already, and I haven't even removed anything from the car. So the labour I want to do myself, and it'll make a great video series. Okay, so probably going to be making 4 or 5 videos on this. The plan is to split the Gen 3 Haldex, which I will show you now. So on the bench here I have a Generation 3 Haldex with a second-hand rear differential unit. Okay, so that bit there and the bit, this kind of bit here that sort of hides inside the diff housing, that's the Haldex, so that will come off. This one I'm not going to be using. Okay, so I went to pick up a differential from a company called Salvage in Petersfield, and the photo they put on eBay was a Gen 4 with a diff, so I thought, oh, that's great, that's good, I'll get that and I'll reuse the Gen 4 and then mate it to a new uprated diff. And then as I was driving home I looked at this and I thought, oh, this doesn't look right, this is different to my one. And it turned out that the photo the seller had used was not quite the same as the item. He didn't realise there was a difference between one he'd sold 2 weeks previous. So in the end he agreed to give me a partial refund on that, which was very kind of him. And you know, I said, look, I can use this bit but not this bit. But having this allows me to then do a comparison between Gen 3 and Gen 4. So these two are Gen 4, and what I can do then is separate this off. This piece here will be exchanged for the new uprated one. So Bell Engineering like to do things on an exchange basis. Okay, so you can buy one outright, it just costs more, but there's a sort of like a surcharge if you don't send your old one back. So rather than get the new diff and then spend a few weeks slowly kind of swapping it over on my car, I thought if I had another one I could send them back, then that's great. It keeps them happy, it means I don't get any extra charges, and it means I can then take my time to build up another unit off the car and then swap it over, minimising the time off the road. And it also looks better in the video, I think, because then I can show you the sort of the new one when it arrives, and I can show you putting the Haldex 4 onto it. Now I've got 2 here. So this one I bought a while back. It looks like it's had a new filter. So these are all as they would be on the car. So my car is, the front of the car's that way. This is the front, this is where the prop shaft connects, and they're the right way up for on the car. Okay, so there's a couple of sort of breather pipes here to let sort of not fumes, but air in and out as the oil heats up. So that's as the Gen 3 is on the car. So the control unit, so this is the electronics in here with the wiring, that's always on the UK passenger side. But as you can see, there's a difference. The filter in there is on the side on the Gen 3, so it's quite easy to get to. but on the Gen 4 it's up above, and it's very difficult to get to that on the car. Okay, it is possible to do it. Frenchie's Road Trip did a video showing their Gen 4 Haldex service, and they didn't remove it from the car. They did remove the filter and change that, and they also removed the pump, which is this thing here. So the pump's easy to get to, filter not quite so easy. This thing here on the Gen 4 is a pressure accumulator. Okay, that is not to be removed or dismantled. There's a very, very strong spring in there. The Gen 3 doesn't have that accumulator. Okay, so that's the real sort of difference between the two. The Gen 4 builds up pressure ready for sort of quick action, okay, whereas the Gen 3 has to sort of build up its pressure. So it's more kind of reactive. This is more proactive. Okay, so with this one, the wheels need to spin a bit before the Haldex locks up the plates. Now I'll talk more in probably the second video about what the Haldex is and how it works, but think of it like a centre differential on an old style Land Rover. So the Haldex links the front of the car, the front drivetrain, via the prop shaft to the back. Okay, so in here there's some clutches and things like that that disconnect. Okay, and when it's normally disconnected like it is there, you see I'm turning the prop shaft. The rear CVs are not doing anything. That vehicle is effectively two-wheel drive, but then when things lock up, it links mechanically the drive through to the rear diff, and the vehicle becomes four-wheel drive. Okay, so when I dismantle these down, I'll talk more about how they actually work inside. We'll do that in another video. But the Gen 3, the way to look at it is the Gen 3 really has to detect wheel spin before it sort of locks up those clutch packs and transfers the drive. The Gen 4 is more sort of proactive. It can almost act before the wheel spins. It's a lot more sensitive because it's got this pressure reservoir here, this accumulator building up pressure and storing it. It can release that and lock things up at the slightest difference in the wheel speeds. Okay, so it's all done with wheel speed sensors. The four-wheel drive system on the Freelander 2 is very, very good. It can even put the brakes on different wheels to sort of transmit the drive to the wheel with the most grip. It's a very, very clever system, and it's got different modes. So I'll talk more about that in another video. In this video, I'm just going to separate this Gen 3 from the Diff. Okay, because during the week I'm going to be ordering a new rear diff, and I need this one Haldex free so that I can then put that back in the crate or box or whatever they send it in and send that back, okay, in a timely manner. Okay, so I'm going to separate this out. I'm going to put the camera on the tripod, get that one separated, and what we'll then have is 3 Haldexes on the bench. The Gen 3 I'm not using. I may dismantle it just to see what's inside. It's no use to me. It's not going to work with my car. That's an important thing to know here. You can't swap Gen 3 with Gen 4. Okay, the software's different. I've heard of people trying to do that, upgrade their car to a Gen 4, or I heard of also somebody fitting a Gen 4 to an older model because they bought the wrong one and it didn't work. Okay, so you do need the right one for your car. Alright, so have a look underneath. The main way to tell which one you have is to look at the pump here, and you can see the pump on the Gen 4 has got this sort of bit on the end of it. Okay, so it's got this sort of nipple kind of raised piece sticking out. The pump on the Gen 3 is smooth on the end. Okay, so that is the quick way to identify them. If you can see the top of it, you'll notice there's a difference in the aluminium sort of reinforcing webs here. Okay, so that's what the Gen 3 looks like. Okay, so you've got these sort of 3 slots there and then 3 kind of cubes there. Okay, so Gen 3. Gen 4 is sort of a bit different in shape, okay? But really it's the pump underneath. The Gen 3 has a filter and a pump with a smooth end and the electronics, and the Gen 4 has a filter, the pump with the knobbly end, the electronics, and this accumulatory thing, okay, on the side. Okay, so if the filter's on the side, it's probably a Gen 3. If it's hidden from view up above, it's a Gen 4. I've got two Gen 4s here. This one's actually got a new cap, so it looks like somebody's changed the filter on this. But the reason why this was being sold off cheap is the connector is broken, okay? So this whole unit is a bit knackered, and that connector there is kind of cracked and broken off, okay? So that control module there is no good. This one looks pretty good, okay? So bought this one for £100, bought this one for £350, okay, and I bought all of this for £200. The Gen 3 are going a lot cheaper, okay, so Gen 4s are the more popular, the later ones. The Gen 4s you're looking at £300 to £500, I would say, for a reasonable second-hand Haldex. I'd hate to think how much a new one is. And Gen 3, they're like 100 to 200. Okay, they're a lot less money. So this whole unit here with a very old Diff that's probably done quite a few miles with its own sort of warm bearings, that will not be in a great position if I was to just refit it to the car. Okay, so it'd probably be worse than the one that's already on the car because this is older. Okay, so this will be sent back to Bell Engineering to be reconditioned, and I'll get another reconditioned one sort of first before sending this back. Okay, the thing with the Gen 4s, what I intend to do is to take both of these apart, completely dismantle them and see what goes on inside. Dismantling with the exception of the accumulator, which you don't take apart. Okay, but this will come off, that'll come off, that'll come off, the pump will come off. Probably also try to kind of take this off and have a look at the clutch packs inside, because they could be worn, you see, so I don't want to blindly just refit them to the car. What I'll do is I'll dismantle both of these and keep the parts separate, clean everything up, check the condition of everything, replace anything that's worn, and then build up one good one out of the parts of both of these, plus probably some new parts as well. Okay, so I've got effectively a reconditioned Gen 4, bolt that to the reconditioned Diff, and I've got a full, almost kind of brand new unit, really. A unit which is ready to do another 200,000 miles, and then I will then swap that over with the one on the car. Hopefully do that sort of within one day. Okay, so the car's not off the road for very long. That's the plan. Right, what I'm going to do now is put the camera on the tripod and undo these various bolts on here. I'm going to also undo, there's a big nut in here, okay, which I have loosened already with my impact gun. It's a 24mm socket, but I'll remove that from all three. The thinking there is, if I am dismantling that, it's probably easier to remove the nut while this is connected to that. It's just going to be easier to do, really, than when the Haldex is just on its own. Okay, because there is a bit of resistance. If I spin that, there's just nothing stopping that, whereas that one, the clutches in there, of course, are dragging in whatever is left of the oil inside. So that has some resistance. That'll be better for using the impact gun to remove that nut. That nut is the sort of thing that kind of holds everything together. Once that comes off, that comes off, that comes off, and then you can get at all the other things. Now, I'll just mention at this point, with the Haldex 4, and you'll notice there's a difference here. This has got like a big flange and that's got a small one. I'm not actually sure what is going on here. I think this bit is in there and this is some sort of I don't know, protective sleeve which possibly was meant to stay on the end of the prop shaft. I don't know, but that's sort of come off with this one, and this one it hasn't, and this one it hasn't. So I don't know what this bit is. Maybe that's fitted to later models, I'm not sure. If you know what this thing is, let me know. Do I need that? Can I take that off and discard it? Is it actually just a later design of flange? These things here have a date on them somewhere. There is a date somewhere. There's a label. It's this label here, I think. No, it's not that label. Where is it? Okay, there's oil coming out of this one. Maybe it's just the one on the pump. Yeah, so that has a date there, 4th of April 2011. But of course the pump could have been changed. And this one here, that it's rubbed out, it's worn away, you can't read it. There's no date on that. I thought there was a date somewhere. But yeah, I mean, assuming the pump is the original pump, these are 2011. I think this was also 2011, maybe a 2012. This is 2008, and my car's 2009. So they're all kind of fairly similar in time. Okay. The thing I was going to mention a minute ago when I got distracted with this flange is about this pump here. Okay, so if I turn this one over, you can see there that it's quite difficult. If you move that pump, it's going to hit this. Okay, and here it really is going to hit it. I always thought you had to separate the prop shaft in order to then remove this, in order to then remove that. Frenchie's Road Trip, in their video, they found that this could actually be removed without removing this, and even without separating it from the prop shaft. Okay, so I think in their video they spent hours trying to disconnect the Haldex from the prop shaft, thinking they had to do that to remove the pump, and then they actually found a way to get the pump off, and I think it just cleared. Just maybe when these bolts are removed, it sort of just comes off. I'm not sure actually. Have a look at their video. If you want to try and service yours in situ, you don't have to split the prop shaft in order to remove this. Okay, it doesn't really apply to me because I'm going to be dismantling these anyway, so this is going to come off, and then that'll come off no problem. But if you are doing this on the car, it is worth knowing that this can be removed with that in place and with the prop shaft still connected. Don't spend hours trying to split the prop shaft, because that can be a real pain. You have to remove some nut or bolts, I think it's bolts, and then use a plate and then an M8 bolt. It's in the Haynes manual. I think you put an M8 bolt through that hole and then tighten the two sort of retaining bolts down to press that, and it presses it apart. Okay, now I will be doing that on my car to get my old one off. Okay, I will need to split it, so when it comes to that, I'll show you how to do it. Okay, but I've heard that one of the most difficult bits with removing the diff and the Haldex is splitting this prop shaft joint. Okay, so it's worth reading up on that before you do that, or wait until I actually encounter that issue myself and show you how to do it. But I'm expecting that to be a pain to do that. Okay, I've heard a lot of stories from other people where they're wrestling with it for hours and hours trying to split the prop shaft from this flange. Okay, right, I'm going to get the impact gun now, remove this 4 bolts holding the Haldex in. I'm going to remove these nuts as well, and hopefully I can just pull that out of the diff. I'm also going to split these out, because I think when I send this diff back, I don't think it needs these in here. Okay, so I have got a sort of special CV cup puller thing sort of slide hammer thing to kind of pull those out, because they are retained in by a kind of circlip, and you have to sort of give them a firm tug. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is use 24mm socket and remove this big nut. I'm going to do all three. Okay, so that nut is, it's not like a kind of tabbed nut where you kind of hammer something over or stake it to lock it in there. It is literally just a normal nut. It's not a nylock, and it has a thread lock on it. Now you're meant to replace that nut, okay, when you remove it you're meant to replace it with a new one. It is just because it has the thread lock on it. Okay, so if you were to apply more thread lock you'd probably get away with reusing it, but if that comes loose in situ it's just going to be a real problem. Okay, so I would say play safe, buy the new nut, put it on to the correct torque. So I'm going to remove this now, and right now as you can see there's absolutely no sign of any thread lock on there, although there is some sort of pink dust which I think is the remains of the thread lock. Right, so that's one of the nuts. Let's do these two here. Okay, so that's that one. You hold it, otherwise it tries to spin that. So if you were doing that with a wrench, it's just not going to work unless you can lock this somehow. Doing it with an impact gun, much better. Okay, so I think these look exactly the same. Just to prove it, I'm just going to thread the Gen 3. Yeah, you see this one's got some pink, there's sort of pink dust in there, which is the thread lock. Let's just see if that thread's on there. Yes, it does. Okay, so the nut is the same between Gen 3 and Gen 4. Now I'm going to remove these bolts here. Now they're very long and they go right into this, so WD-40 probably isn't going to penetrate all the way in. You could try it. These are a 10mm socket. Okay, and there's that one. Another one. There's the other one. They can be really tight. Okay, so these ones here I'd already loosened a bit with the breaker bar. Okay, so just hold this and use a long bar if your impact gun is not going to move it. Okay, so between the impact gun and the long bar you should be able to get it apart. Now this other one's a bit hidden away, it's down in under there. Right, now you'll notice here 3 bolts are short and 1 is long. Okay, I don't know if the Gen 4 is the same. Looking at this, I would say it's the same. One of the holes goes through a thicker bit of aluminium. Okay, so now somehow I need to separate this, and no idea how to do that. Right, well, maybe I just bash on this, I don't know. I don't want to start levering things, although I could probably get something down in there. It is aluminium, you see, so you don't want to start crowbarring things apart. Although I am just going to, I think it just needs to just break the seal there is a rubber O-ring, and I think once that's out it should pull out. Okay, so yeah, there's no gasket that I can see. Certainly on these ones there's no evidence of a sort of paper gasket between the two. I think it is just a rubber O-ring that seals the two parts. Or basically stops the Haldex. The Haldex fluid sits in this bit and the Diff oil sits in that bit. It's just really to stop the oil kind of coming out. Now this staining here was where oil came out of these breather pipes when this was upside down, and this staining here, there was no explanation for it, and I think it had actually come out where the two halves joined together. Okay, so there was nothing else, no drain plug or anything there. The drain plug for the Haldex is actually on the side of the rear diff. Very confusing because people look at this and they go, oh, where's the drain plug? It's this one here, and then the drain plug for the rear diff is over here. Okay, so it's above the drive shaft. So that does the diff oil, which is 80-90 gear oil, and then this one is a special Haldex fluid which goes into this clutch pack here. Okay, it's not gear oil, okay, it's special fluid, and if you buy it from Land Rover it will be like 25 quid for a little tube, like a sort of sealant gun tube, and you squirt it in. I'm going to be using the Ravenol Haldex fluid, which was also not cheap, but comes in a big litre bottle. Okay, capacities I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'll put them at the bottom of the screen now. Okay, I think 1 litre is enough for the Haldex. Okay, gear oil is probably similar. Okay, so a 1 litre bottle of each should be enough to refill both parts, and you'll have some left over. Okay, so I'll put the capacities at the bottom of the screen. Might be a difference between 3 and 4, I don't know. I'll check that and I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do now is somehow get this apart. I could try just using like a sort of soft, like a rubber mallet or something, and hitting there, or a piece of wood. I don't really want to start pulling this around, even though I'm not going to be keeping this. This is just going to be dismantled and probably chucked away or sold on eBay as spares or repair or something like that. I don't know. It's no use to me, but I could do with knowing how to remove this carefully, because many of you watching this probably want to remove yours and reuse it. Okay, so let's start off by just very carefully levering in there. I think all it needs is a little shove that way. Let's just try this. I'm really careful here. It's not coming apart. Have I missed a bolt? Okay. Right. No, that's going to damage it. Okay, so I was trying to just gently lever that whole chunk forwards. I think I'm going to have to bash this, which means that this nut is going to have to be put back on. If I don't put the nut on, then there's every possibility that might just fly off when I hit it. So get out of it, moth. Right, okay. Right, so I'm going to do this. And a bit of wood or something to protect that. I mean, I'll probably just whack this because this is not going to be reused. I just need to give that a bit of a jolt forwards. Right, let's give this a go. Okay, so it's now quite dark out here and I'm still persevering with separating this Haldex from this Diff. Okay, it is a nightmare. It just doesn't want to come apart, although a combination of using the crowbar in there, okay, and very carefully sort of cutting around with the knife. I think there was some sort of gasket sealant or something in here. I don't know what it is. There's a lot of white powder. I've managed to cut the O-ring seal. You can see there it's covered in some sort of white crystalline stuff. I just don't know what's happened here, whether water has got into this Haldex or Diff. I'm not sure. Yeah, look at this. It's covered in something. I don't know what it is, but whatever that is, it's kind of jamming the two together. So by very, very carefully using a big flat blade screwdriver in here and being careful not to damage the Diff housing. I don't care too much about the Haldex because that's going to get stripped down and thrown away, but the Diff needs to be sent back to Bell Engineering in exchange for the new uprated one. So I've got to be very careful that I don't break anything from that joint to the left. Don't care too much about to the right. Okay, so with a combination of sort of prising it here and hammering here, you see it is slowly coming apart. Now, this is one thing that really, really annoys me. When you look on the web and you look in the magazines, people vastly underestimate the amount of time and effort required to do these kind of jobs. Land Rover Monthly recently had a Haldex servicing article, and they said 2 hours, start to finish, taking it off the car, separating this, stripping it down, reconditioning it, and putting it all back on again. Now, maybe for a professional, qualified mechanic with the right tools and a 4-post lift, yeah, they might be able to do that. I'm at home. I'm here in a car park. I don't even have a garage. Okay, so this is sort of the typical setup that most home mechanics will be working in. All right, it's not a 2-hour job. It's taken me 4 hours just to get this joint here, and I haven't even had to remove this from the car. I was reading up an article that one guy had written in, I think it was Landy Zone, and he said, oh, it's really easy. If you can change the oil, you can do your Haldex. Well, it's completely different. It's nothing like changing the oil. I could do an oil change in 10 minutes. This is totally different. This is very heavy. You've got to get under the car, you've got to disconnect the prop shaft, you've got to pull out the drive shafts, you've got to then lower this down and then get it on the bench, and then the real fun starts, trying to separate this up and then working on the Haldex to recondition it, and then you've got to do the total reverse to put it all back together again. Okay, it's not an easy job, and it's not a 2-hour job. Allocate a day or even a weekend to doing this. Okay, this is why I am spending the money and buying these extra units so that I can then take my time, do it carefully, do a nice, decent, detailed YouTube video, and build up a complete unit before I swap it out with the one on the car. And even when I swap it out, it's not going to be a quick job. Okay, so people often complain about the length of my videos. This is why they're long, because in real life it takes a long time. There's no point in doing a 10-minute video. That's no use to anybody. Okay, so if it takes me 4 hours, you're gonna get an hour and a half video on it. I'll try and chop out most of it, but the important bits, the things that trip me up and cause me problems and delays, you will also encounter those. Okay, so I've got to include that detail. Alright, so this is a problem at the moment. I'm going to keep going with this, and I'm going to try to get this apart. Now I'm going to put the camcorder on the tripod, and I'll try and do a sort of a time lapse. It's getting a bit late to be hammering out here now. You use a club hammer on this. I tried putting a bit of wood. A rubber mallet won't work here. Okay, I would normally use a piece of wood to protect this lot, but I don't care if this gets damaged really. I just want to get this apart. So I'm going to go for it with the club hammer and the crowbar. I'm going to put the camera on the tripod. I'll do a time lapse so you can't hear me swearing, and I'm hoping that within the next 20 minutes, half an hour, this works itself slowly apart. Right, here we go. It's apart. Right, at last. 4 hours that has taken. 4 hours. Now I'm hoping I haven't damaged the face of the diff. Now that feels fine. There's a lot of kind of grit and sediment and bits of old, I don't know, some kind of sealant or stuff there. There's a load more fluid coming out. Yeah, there's a lot of debris in here. A lot of debris, a lot of bits. You can see the discoloration in the oil there. It's just got loads of kind of iron filings and that in it. Goodness me. Let's have a look in here. Okay. So it's all kind of shiny and kind of clean, but you can see around the outside there, it's just a load of grit, a load of dirt, and this as well. Now I'm a bit confused here. I don't know what that doesn't look how I was expecting it to be. Has it pulled some sort of sleeve or something out with it? Maybe that's what a Haldex 3 looks like. The 4s have got a kind of like grooved basket, I think they call it. Clutch pack basket. Okay, so this one has, it's just got, it's almost like, it's not metal filings, it's like limescale almost. It's the sort of thing you get around a coolant hose when it's leaking. The crystalline stuff. And that was, yeah, I don't think it's just mud. It's not mud. It was out of sight. It was on this face here, caking the rubber seal. Right. Okay. I'm going to get some tissue, clean everything up, get rid of this oil which is slowly flowing off towards the ground, and yeah, and I'll just sort of turn this over and have a quick look around it, just see what it looks like, and that will be it for tonight. But at least it's come apart finally. That was really, really difficult, and I guess it's just luck. Yours might just separate out, you might just undo the bolts and it might just pull out. Maybe Haldex 4 comes apart a lot easier because it hasn't got this kind of sleeve thing on it, as far as I know. Okay, so the 3 might be more difficult to get apart. If you know the answer to that, please leave a comment below and tell me. Okay, but this was a real job to remove. Now, earlier on in this video, I was looking for a label with the date on it, and I looked all around here and I was thinking, I'm sure there was a date. It's not that, it's a barcode. And it's not that, another barcode. There is a date, and it's here on the edge of the ECU, okay, the control unit. There it is. Luckily it's an oil-proof label, which is good. So we can still read it. So it says here, it says Siemens, which is strange because I thought it was Continental that made these. So Siemens VDO, Land Rover, and there is a date in the bottom right, and it says 2nd of September 07 /2, so that might mean second batch of the day or second shift or something like that. Okay. So September 07. This was from a 2008 Freelander 2. Okay, so September 07. By the time it was actually fitted onto a car and sold, it would have been 2008. Okay, the Gen 4s that I've got, I checked the dates on those. They were May 2011 and March 2012, and they are made by Continental, not Siemens. So yeah, changed manufacturer when they went to Gen 4, I think, unless it's just the control box that's made by Siemens and Continental. I don't know. I thought it was Borg Warner who made these, so probably Borg Warner make the actual mechanicals, and the electronics are done by Siemens or Continental. Not sure. If you know the answer, leave a comment below. Now, the only other thing I want to do tonight is try and remove these inner CV cups. Okay, so I've bought this thing, a slide hammer. You can sort of hammer a wedge or something in. I think the Haynes manual shows some sort of wedge thing in there. I've seen people, crowbar and with a screwdriver or whatever before. That can damage the diff casing or the gearbox casing or the PTU casing. When I had my clutch done summer before last, they removed the front ones of these using a crowbar and made a right mess of the aluminium gearbox housing, which I wasn't very happy about. So I'm going to do it my way. Okay, so there are two kind of thingies, claw things. Now that one is too small. Let's see if this one will get in there. Sure, that will go in. It will go in. There it is. Right, so that's sort of in there. And then what I need to do is thread this in. Right. Thread that in until it's all coming out the other side. tighten the lock nut. The lock nut might actually be normally fitted the other side of the black pin, but there's not enough room. Okay, and then the idea is like that. Ooh, wasn't expecting that to come flying out. I nearly hit my car. And there is one of the CV joint cups, and you can see it has this little circlippy thing there. Okay, so a spring clip on it, and that's what kind of locks it in. So it just needs a good tug to pull it out. Okay, that's one. Okay, and we've got seal here, which is probably on its last legs. Okay. Right, let's see if I can push out the other one. Oh, now that's interesting. I thought I could push something through, but there is a cross pin on the diff. Right, let's see if I can show you that. Don't know if you can see that. Down in the hole there is a pin through the middle, so I'm not going to be able to get anything down there. So how am I going to remove this one? Might have to stick the screwdriver through this hole, because I can't get the special claw thing on that unless it will go over these. It might go over those grooves there, maybe. I shall try it and see, but that one came out so easily that I think a quick sort of flick with a screwdriver will probably remove that. I think that's what that hole is for. It might be a drainage hole, but we shall see. That's not going to go. I don't think that's going to go over there. I don't know. You never know. That might have enough grip on that to... No, it's not going to work. Not going to work. Right, let's see if this works. There we go. Right, so you stick the screwdriver through this hole here, and then just give it a quick whack, and that will separate that out. There we go. There's the other one. So these did actually come out quite easily. I think really you could probably almost tie a bit of rope around it and just yank them out. I thought I'd try the special tool. It seemed to work, but only on one side. Okay, so that is it for tonight. Okay, I'm going to go inside and warm up. Haldex is split, drive shaft in the CV cups are out. This is now ready to send back to Bell Engineering. What I will do at the end of this video series is dismantle the diff that's currently on my car. Okay, so what I'll do is I won't be dismantling this one because I don't really want to send a box of bits back to Bell Engineering. They really need the unit as it is, as it comes from the car. So this will get dismantled. The Gen 4s will both get dismantled. What's on my car will get dismantled. So there's lots more videos to do. Okay, so in the next video, hopefully I will have a nice, shiny, new differential with uprated bearings. This one will have gone back, and then I'm going to start dismantling the various Haldexes. So I'll do this one first, just so we can see what's inside, and that will not get used. And then the Gen 4s, I'm going to build one good one out of the two used ones. with the addition of some new service parts as well. Right, that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in part 2. Thank you, bye.